Our third witness is Roger Jordan of the Professional Services Council. The Professional Services Council is the national trade association of the government professional and technical services industry. Mr. Jordan, we look forward to your testimony.
Chairman Walsh, Ranking Member Schrader, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the invitation to testify and the opportunity to discuss small business size standards today. When debates about industry size standards occur, often there is very little agreement. Very small businesses tend to advocate for lower size standards. Companies operating in the middle of their industry size standards tend to advocate for status quo, and companies that are approaching or slightly above their size standard seek a higher level. The reason for the varied opinions is simple. Companies have a keen interest in maximizing their ability to compete for and win federal contracts that are exclusively set aside for small business competition. Given the significant increase in federal spending on services over the past decade, there is much to be gained competitively from qualifying as a small business. Adding fuel to the debate around size standards is the fact that the federal government lacks policies regarding contractors operating in the mid-tier, that is, firms that were once eligible to receive small business set-asides, but whose revenues now exceed the size standard, if even only by $1. If SBA policy is not only to create federal contracting opportunities for small business, but also to ensure long-term success and a sustainable growth pattern, then the plight of small businesses that graduate from their industry size standard should not be ignored, and Congress should explore options that will alleviate this binary approach and incentivize contracting opportunities for mid-tier businesses. During its evaluation, SBA relied on 5 equally weighted major factors to determine the proposed size standards, one of which is the impact on federal contracting and SBA loan programs. However, PSC recommends that greater weight should be given to the impact on federal contracting. In addition, SBA should broaden its evaluation of the federal contracting market to examine barriers to entry into the federal marketplace, not just the commercial space. This, in fact, might encourage SBA to reconsider the merits of adopting separate size standards for the purposes of federal contracting. The adverse impact on small businesses of a single size standard that covers federal procurement and all other SBA programs is documented in SBA's own methodology, in which it acknowledges that the disparity between small business federal market share and industry-wide share may be attributed to a variety of reasons, such as extensive administrative and compliance requirements associated with federal procurement, the different skill sets required by federal contracts, and the size-specific contractor requirements of federal customers. That said, our members have not widely reported significant heartburn with many of the proposed increases to the size standards, as many size standards were increased from 7 to either 10 or 14 million, which will provide much-needed flexibility for small firms to mature. There are, however, proposals for two areas, architectural and engineering services and computer-related services, that require greater scrutiny. As my fellow panelists have already highlighted, the proposed size standard for A&E ballooned, which begs the question of what has changed so dramatically in that specific industry over the years to warrant a quadrupling of the size standard. In contrast, computer-related services have undergone significant changes over the last 20 years, yet SBA proposed raising size standards for those categories only by $500,000. In addition, SBA established common size standards for industries that share similar characteristics. According to SBA, these common size standards reflect cases where many of the same businesses operate in multiple industries. This led SBA to establish a common size standard for a number of computer-related industries, even though the industry data supported a distinct size standard for each industry. For example, SBA analysis shows that computer facilities management services had a calculated industry-specific size standard of 35.5 million. Yet by establishing a common size standard containing this category and other computer-related categories at a level of 25.5 million, SBA has eliminated legitimate small businesses from being able to qualify. In summary, PSC recommends the following. With specific regard to the size standard proposal, PSC recommends that SBA give more weight to the impact on federal contracting factor and broaden its analysis of specific federal market dynamics that distinguish the federal market from the commercial space. Taking this recommendation further, SBA should consider creating a completely separate set of size standards to be used for federal procurement purposes only. In addition, SBA should review its policies regarding the creation of common size standards. Under the proposed rule, the use of common size standards will eliminate small businesses from competition, whereas If the individual industry size standard had been adopted, then all small businesses would be able to compete. Beyond the current rulemaking process, SBA and Congress should support new and ongoing initiatives to incentivize contracting opportunities for mid-tier businesses to ensure that growing small businesses are provided at minimum some protection before having to always compete with large businesses. Lastly, Congress should provide the necessary oversight of SBA to ensure that it is abiding by the provisions enacted in last year's Small Business Jobs Creation Act that require SBA to review and update the size standards every 5 years at minimum. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my testimony. Thank you for inviting PSC to testify today and for your attention to this important matter. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.